So after talking to Jordan Schusterman yesterday for about 30 minutes about Tony Vitello, I didn't think I was going to have to talk about him necessarily again so soon. I thought that me and Jordan, talked about a lot of the points. Obviously, we didn't hit on every point, but I think we discussed a lot of the nuance that comes with this hire and attacked it from a variety of different angles. And Jordan brought, a lot of his expertise in the collegiate game. And I thought, going forward, we're going to start zeroing in on the players. There was some stories that I was kind of targeting, guys like Ryan Walker, Hayden Birdsong, et cetera, et cetera. I have my preview series. But Shayna, we got to circle back because I'll just start here. It was a very interesting day, one that nobody really expected. And it's been so interesting that I've been getting unsolicited texts from all across, just friends who loosely cover baseball, friends who do cover baseball. And I think when you start getting that kind of Venn diagram, I think that's when you know that what's going on in your camp is a little more than a local story. So this is not a crazy national story. I just want to clarify that, but it's escaped Scottsdale, so to say.
Yeah, it's escaped Scottsdale, but I think it escaped Scottsdale because it was a little bizarre, and not in a negative way, not in a positive way. It was just rarely do you see a manager talk for 5 minutes about something that's on his mind unprompted.
That's the key word.
Unprompted. And it was very unprompted. It was before he was even sitting down for his daily morning media session with reporters this morning at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
He was coming in hot with some thoughts.
Let's set the stage here. So, again, media, we meet with Tony Vitello every morning. And again, kind of going back to the episode that I did with Jordan yesterday, that's kind of part of this whole deal is I don't know how frequently he was talking with reporters in Knoxville, but it's a greater quantity of media compared to there. But so Tony arrives about 9:10, 9:15, whenever he does arrive. And as he's sitting down, he says, "Can I ask you guys a question?" And I didn't know where it was going. I thought it was just going to be a casual, what do you like to eat in Scottsdale, things like that. And his question to us was, when did you think I hope I phrase this correctly, because this is a very important way of phrasing the question. And if I get it wrong, Editor Justice is going to fix it. But the question was, when do you think I took this job? And all of us kind of said about 4 days before the official announcement, which was October 18th. That was when The Athletic published their initial report that the Giants were closing in on Tony Vitello as their next manager. Not hiring him, but closing in. That's a very important distinction in this story. And Vitello proceeds, as you said, unprompted, to go on a 3-minute, what do you want to call it, an opening statement, a spiel, a monologue, but he proceeds to provide his perspective, his timeline of events. He said that, that decision was not made on October 18th, that it was actually, between, that report coming out on the 18th and the official hiring on the 22nd. There was a lot that happened. And I do want to clarify, just to make a quick point, this is not necessarily new information. I think he even talked about this at his introductory press conference, and he very much alluded to it. But, in that discussion he had with us, there was some phrases or some quotes that kind of make your ears perk up. One was...
because somebody tweeted it out. I don't know who told them. I wish I did. And, it might have changed the course of history if I would have known who did, to be honest with you.
About 4 hours after, I still don't necessarily 100% know what that means. And then following the spiel, Vitello was told that the report didn't say he was hired. The Athletic didn't say he was hired. ESPN didn't say he was hired. None of the local outlets said that he was hired. It was just, the Giants they think they're going to offer this guy the job. There was nothing that said, at least among the reputable news organizations, that he was going to be hired. And he did admit he had not read it. And I think that's another layer into all this. But yeah, I think, am I missing anything in there? Is that about, I think there was some questions later. He goes on to explain the timeline, how every day went individually. Again, it's not necessarily anything new for him, but I think that about sums it up. And so it was just a very, again, it kind of caught us all off guard. I don't think any of us were expecting him to talk about it. in this nature. And I guess we can just start on our general interpretations of it. Again, the word you used is bizarre. Just how do you kind of make sense of kind of this opening statement, this willingness to talk about this again when nobody really asked him about it?
It's interesting because once you get past the initial shock of what went on and what he talked about, I think that if you listen to it a couple times, which I kind of had to do to understand what was going on, he's really just seems a little bit, very much so, still perturbed by how things ended in Tennessee. And he's a big deal in Tennessee. He was a big deal in Tennessee. It's the emotions with which he talked about it and has talked about it a number of times, his departure. It goes to show that he maybe doesn't show, but my interpretation of it is that maybe he is still, it doesn't sit right with him how it ended. And, you know, in journalism and in professional sports, I think that media gets a little bit jaded about the impact that breaking news can have on the person that's involved in it. So it's both a wake-up call, but also just from our perspective, just this is how the cookie crumbles with news. Like if you are in the business of getting into professional sports, you're going to be subjected to a piece of breaking news that shakes your life. And as he's said a couple times, he's been pursued, and some of his close allies, and allies, other coaches, Jace Tingler mentioned he's been talked to other Major League Baseball teams before about potentially getting into managing. It's not like he was completely thrust into the spotlight. So I think it was a little bit interesting to see him and continue to be so disturbed by, I think, what everyone that participates in professional sports news is very common, which is you're getting into a very high-profile job. You've talked about getting into a high-profile job. You've interviewed for that job.
With a lot of high-profile newsbreakers.
With a lot of high-profile newsbreakers. It's the major leagues. It's Major League Baseball. If you pay attention to stuff like that, this is how it goes. And I think that where it becomes a little bit bizarre is that I think I understand on a human level why it can impact you the way that it obviously has for him, especially given maybe he doesn't like, and he said it explicitly, he doesn't like how it impacted the players. He didn't get a chance to warn them about the tornado of news that was going to come. He didn't get a chance to warn the coaching staff about the tornado of news that was going to come. But that's the nature of the business. So I think that without being too jaded about how news breaks, I think initially that was my reaction, is this is how it goes if you're going into this. But I also, on a human level, understand, in the initial days of this happening, okay, yeah, obviously your life is getting shaken up, but it's two separate sides to the same coin, I guess.
I say this a lot. Multiple things can be true, and on one hand, everything you're saying is accurate. All of this is new for him, specifically just the element of, reports of talks breaking. And again, like Tennessee, we talked about a lot. He built that program. Like Tennessee baseball was not Tennessee baseball before Tony Vitello got there. He was basically the king, the mayor of Knoxville, like whatever you want to call him. I don't know the specifics, but I'm pretty sure he walks out in the street, somebody's going to know him. Like that was his city. He built that program. Like he built it from scratch. And he has to leave that, and he doesn't get to leave it on his terms, which again, I know that reporters we can be very jaded, we can be very cynical, like we're very much accustomed to this, but he's not. On the other hand, it has been 4 months. He has already talked about this, and nobody asked him. And from that perspective, because we're about a week into camp now, like the focus should be solely the San Francisco Giants. And I do want to make a point that Tony has in every single in every single scrum, he has made some allusion to college or Tennessee, which again, I understand because that's his background. I talk about former Pirates all the time because that's my background. But, at some point, the fan base is going to see that and hear that, and especially on a day like today where, there's going to start to be questions. Now, are they fair questions? Not necessarily from the fan base of like, where do your loyalties lie? Like, I don't think he's having second thoughts about the decision. I think that his intention is to make the Giants a winner. But I think it is completely and totally valid for a fan to look at that and say, like, that is not a good look.
Yeah, it's the second day of full squad reporting. Everyone's on the field. You got Rafael Devers and Matt Chapman and Willie Adames hitting home runs in batting practice. You're seeing everyone involved, and I think it's fair to be a little bit miffed that his first thoughts in the morning, with everybody here, after giving a speech about how competitive they can be, and generally yesterday giving a lot of good insights about, you know, what he can see from this squad, to come back and sort of still be falling back into the issues that he's had leaving where he was months ago I can understand why that would rub people the wrong way. And the fact that, you know, this wasn't a thought that was forced out of him. This is something that's top of mind and something that he wanted to be said. So it's fair game to sort of look at that and be like, hey, when are we gonna start thinking about what's the task at hand a little more?
Yeah, and on a day like today, like obviously on the main field here, we had a ton of live BPs. Like Robbie Ray threw a live BP, Ryan Walker threw one. Blade Tidwell looked really good. He was so nasty that like Elliott swung and missed at a pitch, and like his bat just went flying out of his hands. And again, kind of going into the day, again, second day of full squad, where, you know, we're all sinking our teeth into the team as a whole. We're getting opportunities to see them. Like, hell, when I was watching Willie Adames today in live BP, the stance looked noticeably different. Didn't have an opportunity to talk to him about it yet. But, you know, that's something that you notice. Like, I think that, you know, aside from Vitello, and we all know that Vitello was going to be a very big part of our conversation about this team in the year. We talked about that. Well, I talked about that with Jordan yesterday. But we all know, like, there's going to be a lot of Tony talk. But, you know, I didn't necessarily wake up today thinking, like, let's talk about Tony today. Like, I think it was, you know, let's kind of spread the wealth around. But, again, I don't think, like, if you want to use, like, the classic cliche, you can call it a rookie mistake or whatnot. I think that's a little harsh to call it a mistake. But, you know, people are talking about Tony Vitello today in a way that is not entirely positive. And so where it goes from here, let's see. I don't know if he's going to talk about this tomorrow. I don't know if he wants to clarify even further. But I think if I'm just, this is my personal opinion, I think at this point the best thing that Tony can do is just not address this anymore and just, you know, make his focus entirely on Giants baseball. If he wants to talk a little bit less about Tennessee and Christian Moore, and no disrespect to Christian Moore or any of the other guys that he coached there, but I think it would do him some good to, you know, not all the way just reel back a little on the Tennessee talk and start talking more about guys like Matt Chapman and Willie Adames and Rafael Devers, because those are the guys that he is managing now. And a point that was made to me today is, like, you don't often hear major league managers talking about their former teams. Bob Melvin didn't talk about the Padres or the A's, maybe in passing, but, and again, different situation, not a one-to-one comparison, but I am kind of interested to see how tomorrow goes, just what that conversation is going to be given how today unfolded.
Yeah, maybe he just needs to get it off his chest.
Maybe you just need to get it off his chest.
Once and for all. I don't know. Maybe he woke up and he was still thinking about who leaked that information that turned my life upside down for 4 whole days. You want to get it off his chest.
We'll see. Any final thoughts?
I think that in terms of the Tennessee stuff, there is a grace period to be afforded to a brand new manager managing pro ball for the first time, learning a whole new team in a matter of months, and also learning everything else that comes with the job in a matter of months. So there's a grace period, but in terms of learning the ropes. But there's also, I don't know how much grace period is left when it comes to harkening back to his past job. At some point, there needs to be a couple cords cut in terms of what he talks about.
Yeah, I'm reminded of this quote. Like, just I hadn't thought about this until right now. The past is not even past, or the past is not even dead. It's not even past. I'm like, Editor Justice is gonna put that quote in. It's a lot more profound than what I'm saying, but you know, past is never completely dead. I've said a lot more profound things.
He did quote Lil Wayne today. I don't remember what
he did quote Lil Wayne. That, like, let's end it on a positive note. He did quote Lil Wayne. which
Don't
is
remember what the quote was.
always a positive. And he did, ended on a bit of a funny note saying, I think somebody asked him, was like, so are we never going to hear you talk about Tennessee again? And he said, don't put me in a corner. Which I think I think if he talks about Tennessee again, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, Tennessee. Because like it's going to come up naturally. But, again, it's just the quantity, the frequency, just I think that it would do him some good just to, the past is the past. This is where he's at right now. Everything that has happened. I don't think any of us have any plans as of right now to push that envelope even more as far as asking. And again, let's talk about Matt Chapman. Let's talk about Willie Adames. Let's talk about some of the San Francisco Giants.
Who's going to be the closer? Who's going to be in the bullpen?
Let's talk about these
We
things.
got all these guys throwing. Let's talk about it.
There's some fun things to talk about, and I just think objectively, regardless of what we talk about with Giants, it would be a lot more fun for all parties involved to talk only about the Giants. Justice De Los Santos, Shayna Rubin. Peace out, y'all.